Good evening and welcome to your Friday night show here on Four Lads Had a Dream. My name's Andrew and I'm joined tonight by my very favourite podder, Davie. How are you doing, mate?
I'm fine, but come on, I'm not your favourite. I'm the only one available because the rest are all on the Christmas night out. Let's not pretend.
Yeah. Look, they might be having a great old time with a lovely meal and drinks and all manner of lovely stuff paid for out of our very generous members and subscribers. But we get to preview the Killie game, Davie. So really, who's having more fun? Let's be honest.
Yeah, and we get watching the World Cup draw as well, so we're really lucky tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, I got to see my president get an award for bringing peace to the world, which was very interesting. Very interesting. And I'm going to leave it at that unless I do something that will get us in trouble. So, apologies for being late. It's down to me working late and everyone else buggering off on their jollies. But some people are still professionals over here at Four Lads Towers, so we'll get ourselves live. It's a pleasure to be here, Davie. Obviously, I did the post-match reaction to our game against Dundee United, which was, I think fair to say, a mixed bag. But I'd like to get your thoughts on it because you've not had the opportunity to do so. So let me know.
Oh, I'm unlikely to say something that you guys haven't said already, but it was just further evidence that at the two ends of the park, we are miles away from where we need to be. So I get we've got injuries at the back, but the two centre-halves are an absolute bomb scare. And at the other end of the pitch, we've got three centre-forwards who between them couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo, as the old expression goes. So, it was a night that I suppose getting a point at the end of it the way we did was a good thing because it meant that at least we didn't lose. But my God, the chances we missed, the Keystone Cops defending. Oh, geez, I don't know how much longer we're going to be watching this kind of stuff before it improves.
Indeed. I mean, thanks to someone's very dedicated and detailed notes, I know that we have had an XG of 4.27, which I, to be honest, I hadn't looked at the stats after the game. My immediate thought is that I don't think that's particularly far off because we created plenty of chances. I think the issue, as you've sort of touched on there, Davie, is that we can't really trust any of our strikers at the moment to be the ones to convert them. So while it does show, more of an intent in terms of attacking, the fact that we're just unable to put those away, I think one of them was a 0.98 and one of them was a 0.96 in terms of XG, which is, I think, as close to a nailed-on chance as you could get, and yet still only managed to convert two of them. So, yeah, not great reading, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll end up talking about the Kilmarock game shortly, but it's one of these things. No matter which forward you decide you want to play tomorrow, then you all you're looking forward to is them not scoring, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, Chamiti's only got one goal. I think Miowski's only got a couple, hasn't he? Danilo's only got two or three. So the goals are all coming from elsewhere. That can't go on. If you think about it, this time last year, it was completely the opposite. There was three guys scoring all the goals, whereas this year it's everyone except the forwards are scoring the goals. January can't come quick enough, and I know that we've spent a lot of money in the summer. I don't know how much is left, but we absolutely have to bring somebody in that can actually score goals because it's killing us.
Yeah, I mean, if only we had, someone who'd scored even more goals that was sitting on the bench not doing anything. But obviously, that doesn't exist. So what can you do? I think one of the things that we sort of talked about the other night as well was that Brammy coming into the team has looked quietly quite effective. Obviously, we discussed it the other night just about how he was nowhere near it. In fact, was close to the exit door last season. The fact that he's, at the moment, putting himself in as one of the best names on the team sheet right now. Again, it comes back to that January discussion. It is not a good reflection when one of the players who was on the periphery of the squad last season is now being used as one of the main men. But I think he was impressive. He was creative, driving forward, and did make some things happen. And scored a penalty at the end, which I think it probably went a little bit under the radar, but that's still high pressure. We can say that, a draw wasn't good enough and we were disappointed with it and all that, but we'd have been even more pissed off if we lost that one.
Yeah, but I mean, Brammy was someone that we had great hopes for when he came in, wasn't it? And then by the time last season finished, he was behind even Tom Lawrence in the pecking order. All of us just wanted rid of him well before last season was out. I think, to be fair, he's shown a pretty good attitude this season, because both head coaches seem to have ignored him for most of the time. He hasn't even made it into the European squad, and yet he hasn't been in a huff. He's actually come into the team and looked as if he's wanted to prove a point. I thought he played okay against Falkirk last week without being outstanding, but yeah, what little we did create, he was behind a bit of it, and he was our best player on Wednesday night, I thought. He's bound to play tomorrow night. It's who else is who's there up alongside him. I think it's the burning question. Everyone, I think, probably in the comments as well. I've not started reading the comments yet, but I'm sure somebody has by this time mentioned Curtis and Cameron, because everybody's talking about them. I'm with everybody else in that I don't understand why they're not getting a chance, but at the same time, I think we're maybe building them up a bit better than they actually are, in terms of they can make such a huge difference. But they certainly deserve a chance, because I think the one thing we'll get from both of them is a bit of energy and a bit of enthusiasm and a bit of heart and desire, which has been missing so often. And so maybe they'll play, maybe they won't. But yes, Bajrami was good, but he's not the answer long term, I don't think.
No,
I'm not sure who is.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, Davie, where I don't think we can look long term right now. Where we have to be game by game, and it has to be just who's going to get you the best result. It's why the lack of inclusion for Curtis and Cameron, who, yes, I do know that they've scored goals, lads. Like, I was being a little facetious when I said, obviously we don't have any other goal scorers. And yeah, I think Cameron certainly would have made more sense for the Wednesday night game, because it's a game and a ground that he knows well, and he's been very successful at as well. And Curtis, again, I think second, third highest goal scorer for us this season, and that's with the lack of opportunities that he's had as well. So there's no question that I think they can contribute. I would really like to see them included. We'll talk through the team, I think, in more detail, but certainly them not featuring continuously is the only real, I think, major question mark that I have over Danny Roll. But by the same token, I do not envy him being in his position. We talked, last season about Phil Clement and how he was working with one hand tied behind his back, no CEO and no director of football, etc., etc. But Danny Roll's found himself in an even worse position, because he wasn't even involved in signing any of these players. He's just had to pick up the wreckage and try and muddle through.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in Monday night when I was on, I can't think of a Rangers manager who's come into a worse, been dealt a worse hand, if you like, than he has. You could argue that Gerrard inherited a mess as well, but he had a summer. He had a summer before he had to play a game. Danny Rose basically had to just pick up the wreckage that's been left behind. Not only in terms of maybe the team's confidence and the way they were playing and all this, but just the very fact there's not very many good players there, which I hate to say, but the money we've spent on really ordinary players who, I think we've only won 5 games out of, is it 14, I think it is, in the league. I mean, that's absolutely horrendous. And it shows you a little bit, I think, about how poor Celtic have been this year, the fact that they're not miles and miles and miles in front of us, the way you would expect them to be after we've only won 5 games.
Yeah.
But in saying that, when I look at the fixtures that are coming up before we can actually bring anyone else in, it does terrify me a little bit as to where we might be in the league by the time we can actually do something about it in January.
I mean, it does feel like every year December's a brutal month for us, which you'd think would eventually change with that random fixture computer. But oddly enough, it never does seem to change. We always tend to get a really horrible fixture on my birthday as well, just to really deaden my mood. So I'm looking forward to the 12th. Where we actually are not playing for a change. Instead, we've just got to wait to the Monday that weekend afterwards to actually get round to the game. So they don't manage to ruin my weekend. So that'll be pleasant at least. But yeah, I mean, Davie, you were touching on our, the lack of wins that we've got. I think the more concerning thing for me is those 8 draws in the 14 games. But that's what's really killed us, because we've had so many opportunities to capitalise where Celtic have slipped up. But again, comes back to that same thing. We lack the personnel to do it. I think you could probably argue we lack the manager to do it earlier in the season as well. So that's been the real killer for us. We're 9 points behind. We've only lost 1 league game this season, but it comes with a cost of dropping points really stupidly along the way, and on paper at least, avoidable points. So we'll see where we are come the end of December. I think that Old Firm fixture just at the start of January is going to be massive. I think if we can get a win there, that would be pretty incredible. But the only hope I'm clinging on to is that they continue to be as inconsistent as they have been, because I cannot, in good faith, put a lot of hope behind this squad of players to pull us out of a hole here.
No, I mean, if you look at the fixtures for the rest of this month, I mean, we've got both the Edinburgh teams to play, haven't we? We've got Kilmarock away, which we'll talk about later, which is a ground that we've struggled in. I mean, good Rangers teams have struggled there in the past, never mind this one. And then we've Motherwell, who are actually above us in the league. We've got them to play. We've got St Mirren, who are a team that we always struggle against. And then we've got the Old Firm game right at the start of the year. And I'm not actually sure if the registration for new players will actually will even have opened by the time the holidays and stuff. I don't know actually whether we can actually play anything new against Celtic. I don't actually know that. So
I always forget that the 2nd is a holiday in Scotland as well. You lucky so-and-sos. We don't get that down in England. I feel like that's discriminatory, quite frankly. I feel offended by that.
That's what you get for living in England. But so do I think we will still be in the league race come that Old Firm game? I don't know. I mean, I think we're only in the very edges of it as it is. Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned the 8 draws. I mean, I got a text sent to me the other day by an eternal optimist, and it said on it that Rangers have got the longest unbeaten run in the Premier League at the moment, which I just laughed at when I saw.
Sure.
Apparently, we have gone 9 league games without defeat, which is longer than anyone else. But as you say, it's the draws, and champions turn draws into wins, whereas we just turn draws into draws, and it makes a huge difference. And I've talked about.
We turn wins into draws. That's what we're specialised at this season.
But that's why I think the team needs bad losers in it, established winners. The thing that we didn't recruit during the summer, and I'm hoping to God that is what we're going to recruit in January, players that would kick their granny basically to turn 1 point into 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew Kerr has just pointed out that England get Easter Sunday as a holiday and Scotland don't. So, okay, fair enough, lads. I'll take my 4-day weekends over the extra hangover recovery day. That's fair. Yeah, listen, we're going to get there when we get there. We're obviously not going to be back home until the 15th. So, we've got to do Fenderakos as well. That's going to be a delight, I'm sure. We're going to definitely scoosh that one. Yeah, we find ourselves, in terms of preparing for the Killie game now, we know that Moore's back in the squad, which is good news, given that he has certainly been one of the players who looks like he's been improved by Danny Roll so far. Sterling's not going to be in the squad. We don't know for sure. We're hopeful that's just down to him not being risked on the plastic pitch. But all in all, I mean, Davie, we touched on it earlier, but certainly I would like to see some changes of personnel in there. There are some players who are still featuring who I think really could do with a spell out the team, and some who I think could drop out the squad entirely without being missed that much. How do you see us lining up for that match come Saturday at 8 o'clock in the evening?
Yeah, 8 o'clock at night. What a shocking time for a game of football. Well, the first thing he says, I don't think Moore will start. I can't see him just getting launched straight back into the team. I watched a bit of the press conference earlier on, and Rule seemed to suggest that Moore would be in the squad as long as he didn't have a reaction to training this morning, which doesn't sound like somebody who's fit enough to start a game. But it is good he's back. I think that since the new head coach took over, he's given him a slightly different role. Martin played him just as a winger, and I never really saw him as a winger. He looks more of a sort of creative inside forward, and Rule's system that he sort of played a sort of 3-4-3 type thing with Moore sort of floating about as an inside forward, and I thought it definitely benefited him. As for Sterling, it would be good to get him back if he can ever stay fit, mainly because he can play so many different positions. I think that for all that McHoma scored a cracking goal the other night, but he's very inconsistent at left back, and he's the only left back we've got. Aaron should never play there. He's never a left back on a Monday Sundays. So it would be good that Sterling could give us cover there. He can also cover centre back, he can cover right back, he can cover midfield. So he would be good to get back. But I suppose to answer your question, who would I want to see tomorrow night? God, now there is a question.
It's an easy one, right?
Yeah, I know.
Surely the starting 11 picks itself.
Oh Jesus! Well, the number one does, but it becomes more complicated once you go beyond there. I think question one is for me: do we persevere with the two centre backs, or do we go back to a three? Because after watching Giga and Fernandez the other night, leaving all kinds of spaces and all kinds of gaps in between them and between them and their fullbacks, I don't know whether a three at the back, going back to that three at the back that Rule played initially, would be a better idea if we've got three centre backs to play.
Well, I was going to say, I think our only option there would be Clinton Tiala, who hasn't played for us for this season, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know.
Or Taverner.
True.
He could move Taverner to right centre back and put Aarons to the right side of the defence. He could do. Me personally, and I've said this a few times in the pods this year, I don't think we've got a defence good enough to play with two at the back because I don't trust it. I don't trust any of them. So I would play three by default, but I would also like to see two up front. I think that remember Barry Ferguson tried a 3-5-2 for a while last season with Czerny and Dessers up front, and I thought that suited the players we had at that time, and I think that would suit the players we've got at this time as well, because I don't think we've got anyone who can lead the line by themselves up front. Chermiti is the best one of the three at it, but he will never score goals. He's absolutely hopeless with the ball at his feet and the ball in the penalty box. I think he needs somebody beside him, and I think Danilo needs somebody beside him, and I think Miovski needs somebody beside him. So, and I also think that there's an argument that young Curtis could actually play off somebody like Chermiti as an inside forward rather than a winger. So what I personally would do is I would play 3-5-2, but I don't think it will happen. I think the manager will stick with the system that he's been playing for the last 3 or 4 games, and if he does that, I hope Cameron plays. I think he deserves a chance. I'd like to see him and Barron in the middle, some with maybe Raskin as well. And if I had to pick one centre forward out of the three, honestly, it's like put 3 names in a bag and just pick one out. I don't know. If I had to pick one, it would have been Miovski until I started playing for us, and he's been absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Danilo was third choice last season for a reason, and Chermiti will never be a goal scorer if he plays to his 100. So that's why I'm saying play 2, because I can't think of one that's going to be a success.
Yeah, I mean, I think Danilo has always worked better off of the main striker, and so that's why I quite like the idea of the 2. The problem is it's Miovski or Chermiti. You're just picking a different flavour of not good striker. Maybe you go with Curtis up there instead, but that would mean he'd have to start a game, and that hasn't happened yet. So it's an interesting one. I think for me, the risk of going to the 3 at the back, along with not having enough centre backs really to cover it in case one gets injured and you have to throw out the whole system. It's also the fact that we've got one left back, so it's just a terrible situation to be in. comes back to January, comes back to the disaster of a recruitment that we had this past summer. So, and I think in terms of the midfield, while Raskin, I think, would still be on the team sheet for me, he's not really kicked his own ass. Like, he's been okay in spells, but he's not been the kind of level of player. And I don't know whether that's down to him or if it's just down to the state of the team around him. You've got players like Diamande who have been very ineffectual. I think, we've had a handful of games, I think, from last season, and my hope was that this season he would kick on with that. But unfortunately, it just has never shown that, and has now got into a really bad habit of whenever he does come on, either as a sub or starting, of picking up stupid fouls as well, and just trying his best to get sent off, which is not ideal. So we know it's never easy going to Killie either. It's, as CMAG says in the chat, it should be illegal to have a game at that time of night on a Saturday. And the fact that, it's a terrible plastic pitch and we know that Killie will be up for it, all those things apply. That's even before we get to our own lack of form as well. So plenty to be excited about, lads. It's going to be an interesting one because we did certainly see much more attacking intent. It's the defense that was the concern. So you have to hope that something gets done to try and square that up.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't mentioned Kilmarock yet, but you're absolutely right. They're quite predictable, I would think, when it comes to on the plastic pitch. They've got the likes of that Bruce Anderson, the Marley Watkins, these big physical, rummel them up type forwards. Exactly the kind who I think Giga is totally unsuited to playing against, which is another reason why I would play 3 actually, because I think I would have won sweeping out behind the other two for when they lose the ball in the air and get brushed aside. I would go with Barron, Cameron, and Bajrami in the middle if I was picking the team. I actually would rest Raskin for this game. I don't think he's been anywhere near what he should be. I think he's one of the few that's played every game under Rules so far. Rules said at his press conference last week he's getting fed up giving the same players opportunity after opportunity and they weren't taking it. Everyone assumed that to mean Asgard and Ant-Man and various others like that. But Asgard's actually only started half the games Rules been manager, but Raskin started every single one of them. And I don't think you could put it this way, you could count the good games he's played, the impressive games he's played in a couple of fingers, I would have said. So, yeah. But I think Barron's played quite well since he's come into the team. So I would have him and Cameron as a kind of homegrown, Scottish, small, wiry, and about them, pairing in the middle with Bajrami as the number 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly that midfield that you've named there, Davie, one thing I don't think we'd ever question with those two would be the effort they put in. Conor Barron, I don't think is a world beater, but one thing he does always do is give 100% when he plays. Cameron has got all the things in the world to prove. He will want to play. Just a question of if he gets given the opportunity. So, and as we said, Bajrami has looked much more effective attacking wise. The other question, I suppose, is what we do with the wings as well. If we've got Bajrami sitting as the 10, I think Gassama has still been one of the more effective the wingers that we've had. More, as you say, I don't think starts. So, dealer's choice then in terms of who else starts up top there. Because the striking and attacking options in general have not been particularly effective, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, if the manager does what I think he's going to do and just sticks with the 4-2-3-1, that kind of snookers completely the team I've just named because it's completely not suited to that. If he does that, then I think the two wide men should be Curtis on one side and Gassama on the other. I think, and Bajrami is the one in the middle. I think that makes the most sense for me. And then God knows who you have as the striker in front of them. whoever it is, you've just got to hope the other three are the ones that are actually going to put the ball in the net, because you know the guy in front of them won't. And if it's two sitting midfield players, if it's two sitting midfield players, then it probably will end up being Raskin and Barron. I would
imagine. I like to say we know that the post-match comments talked about, some players have had plenty of opportunities and not really taken them. I think it remains to be seen if that actually plays out in reality, because unfortunately we've just got a very limited squad. Some players are going to have to keep playing because we don't really have a lot of other options there to come in.
He's also been a bit unlucky with injuries, to be fair, hasn't he? I mean, although the likes of Ant-Man's now, he's actually done very well. I get that, but him and Cornelius and Suter, etc., they were players who you would think would at least be on the match day squad, wouldn't they? They would at least be in that.
Derek Cornelius and John Suter both going out roughly at the same time, I think is very unfortunate. Derek Cornelius being out for a lengthy period of time as well has been really unfortunate, because I think of all the centre-backs that we've had so far in the squad, he's looked the best one. So obviously he goes out with the biggest injury. Suter, we know, has got a mistake in him, but the current centre-backs seem to have a few in them. So he's still, again, an improvement on those two.
And the other thing is, Giga's about to go to the African Cup of Nations. It starts, actually, I think it's the Hibs game is on the Monday night, I think. That's the last game he can play in before he goes. So that's like potentially another reason why if Insial is ever going to play, maybe we should give him some minutes before that, in case Suter and Cornelius aren't back by then, because then he's going to have to play, I think, unless Sterling or Tavernier become centre-half.
Yeah, and I mean, we know that both of those two can play there, but again, it reduces your options at right back. Then you're relying on Aarons as the sole right back. And again, I hate that position that we're in, where we only have one option to play in a position. Because I don't think it's good for the players either. If you know that you're going to play, because, hey, who else is? Then you can get complacent. You're not going to bother your ass, because what's going to happen? You get dropped. No one else is going to play there. So what's going to happen? Again, I don't want to harp on too much about it, but it comes back to that same lack of ability to build a squad. Finally, tonight, we want to touch on the World Cup draw. Scotland's being in there for the first time since 1998, and they end up with two of the teams that they played back in 1998. Haiti as well. So, that's a new one. I can't even remember seeing them at a World Cup before, so that'll be definitely new and interesting. We also know that in the Group A, Mexico, South Africa, and South Korea, either Wales or Northern Ireland could end up there, depending on how they do in their playoffs. England are playing someone as well. I don't know who. Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. So going to be interesting. I don't know how much we're going to touch on the World Cup. I'm sure it will invite a certain comment, especially with the games being on in the States. That's going to involve some interesting airtimes, I think, for kickoffs for the rest of the world. But nonetheless, it should be an interesting spectacle, especially seeing it played over 3 different countries as well. So,
yeah, and I think from a Rangers perspective, Scotland and Morocco, we could be seeing John Suter against Igaman. We could be. That could be an interesting duel, to put it mildly. I know a lot of fans don't really bother with Scotland, and I totally understand it. But it will be a big thing next summer. And they start off against Haiti, which who knew Haiti had a football team? Actually, I'm old enough to remember them playing in the World Cup in 1974.
Oh, all right.
And they took the lead against Italy, and it was almost like front page news that they scored the goal. They still get beat, obviously, but of course. Scotland plays Zaire that year. Zaire and Haiti were in it for the first time, and anyway, I think Scotland will qualify. I'm going to put it out there right now, and the reason I think that is because 8 third-place teams qualify, and I think they'll beat Haiti and get 3 points, and I think 3 points might get them through.
That's true. Morocco got to turn up to depend if Eagleman turns up, I suppose, and rattles a few past. Of course, it depends if John Souttar's back to full fitness by then as well, gets included in the squad. We shall see. Folks, we do appreciate everyone turning out on a Friday night, especially at this time of year, especially with Rangers being in the form that they're in. I understand not many folk wanted to turn up, but me and Davie, who are holding down the fort despite the rest of the guys going out in the piss, still appreciate your company immensely. Davie, appreciate you coming out and for doing a wonderful agenda as well. Apologies for butchering it, but you had to know that was going to happen with me hosting.
Oh, my pleasure. I certainly won't be doing the post-match tomorrow night, because by the time the game finishes at 10 o'clock on Saturday night, I'll not be sober enough to talk about anything. But let's hope that whoever's doing the post-match tomorrow's got something good to talk about, and when you and I are back on at a later date, we'll get more of a smile on our face.
Indeed. I think we're punishing young Andrew Stewart with it. I think that's his penance for his hangover that he will have tomorrow. So I'm sure he'll look forward to that. He's going to have a great time. But yes, appreciate everyone for tuning in and joining us tonight. Over 1,000 of you watching on a Friday night. Appreciate you so much. Thanks to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyde Fire Protection and Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, CSD Air Conditioning, Candide, thank you, Amra, and local Dart Shop Online as well, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. I believe that Stevie is putting up the prediction video for members only. And as far as I know, no one's won that yet, because I think folk keep predicting Rangers to win, and unfortunately, we let us down quite a lot whenever that's happened. So, get your predictions in. Someone's got to win it eventually, even just by the law of averages. So, keep plugging away, guys. If you do want to sign up as a member, I believe today we finally brought back from the paywall the book show from last night. Oh no, it wasn't. It was our Ranger stories with Gordon Smith.
Gordon
right?
Smith, yeah.
So yeah, fantastic interview. We nicked some bits of it for the last little documentary that we did, Davie, and honestly, fascinating insight. And it's the kind of stuff like members have had access to that for a few months now, and it just gets your first look at some of the more interesting and experimental bits that we're doing. So it's worthwhile. It helps support the show. It's funding everyone getting drunk tonight. So that you've got that as well. If you want to give us money to do that, then sure. But in all seriousness, it also helps us do things like post-match shows, gets us access to the games, all manner of stuff. It just helps the podcast grow. So thank you very much. Please subscribe as well. I think we're less than 100 now away from getting 1,200 subscribers, which is frankly ridiculous. I said as much on the post-match pod the other night, but me, Stevie, and Kenny sat down at the start of the year and we're talking about how far we reckoned we could get the pod. Talked about maybe getting it to 5,000 by the end of the year. And you guys have smashed that completely out of the water. So frankly, any subscribers we get is always a small blessing, but to bring us to that level would be satisfying for me, because I like round numbers. But I would thoroughly appreciate it if you haven't, please do. We appreciate you guys immensely. Thank you again for your loyalty. The one thing that's made Rangers right now more bearable is the fact that we have this community, that we've got each other to talk to about it, and to suffer together, I suppose. So appreciate it very much, guys. Thank you again to Davie and to everyone watching out there. Until we talk to you again, folks, goodbye for now. The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.